Matty Fresh on the track up at State. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate. Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and ballin' like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
And welcome back to Booze, Bets, and Ball. We finally almost have a full house here, but Tyler's just never going to show up. So we're moving beyond that. I guess this is the biggest episode we'll probably do this season, recapping at first Wisconsin and what went on there, and then moving forward on to the Ohio State game, obviously this week coming up. But yeah, so Penn State beats Wisconsin 28-13, mostly thanks to Bo Pribula, as Drew Eller leaves this game around right before half and then does not return. Looks like some kind of knee injury, not sure the severity. Looked like he could have maybe gave it a go if really necessary, but after Jaden Reed's pick six, or Jalen Reed, which one is it? Because I get them confused because I like the Packers, so they're cousins.
Jalen,
are they?
Jalen, yeah. Huh?
They're cousins?
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that. Oh.
Josh Downs and Caleb Downs are related too. I just learned the other day.
Yeah, I learned that too. I did not know that one either. Yeah. Just like I watch one Saturday, one Sunday, so it gets so confusing for me. But big pick six by him kind of changes the whole trajectory of the game, and then Pribula settles in. Offense looks decent. It's very clear that Nick Singleton is not 100% too. So some stuff going on there. What were you guys' thoughts about this game? Because it was a 15-point game, but, they tackle the punter or block that punt, and Julian Fleming doesn't drop the most wide-open pass I've ever seen in my life. This game's probably like 35-7. You know what I mean? Like, I just think this game would have went in a totally different direction had those two small things happened in the first half, regardless of the Aller injury.
I agree. Drop really kind of stalled them a little bit, right? Because then they went. That's the drive. They went for it on fourth down. Kind of just took some of the air out of the offense a little bit. The punt thing, I don't know. It gave Wisconsin a little bit of life. It was a shit play, but even if they just didn't block it and he just punted and we got the ball there, that we would have had better field position than we ended up with. So, I don't know, a couple of early mistakes. I guess I kind of thought when halftime came, and I was watching the game on my phone at the airport, so it wasn't like the best experience. But when halftime came, on one hand, it looked like Aller was going to be out. I was pretty nervous, but not to where I thought they were going to lose. Wisconsin sucks in many different ways. Wisconsin's quarterback sucks. They had 7 drops. The first 2 drives, I think, they had negative rushing yards. They couldn't do anything first 2 drives in the second half. And their defense wasn't really that impressive. So I didn't think we were going to lose, but also it was really, really nice to see Bo Pribula, Jesus, it's terrible, come in and be very effective against a Big Ten team, right? Which there was some nerves there. But once we got the pick six, I thought we were going to win, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, the game, I thought we did the same old, which we can't do this week. We start off slow, which 2016 we tend to do, but that team was a lot more explosive and different than this team, where we can't come back down 28, maybe 14 like USC, but we can't give up 3 touchdowns against OSU and expect to come back. But what you guys were saying with the fake, the trick punt or whatever, it seems like that's back-to-back weeks. USC only scored on trick plays. Yeah. Wisconsin, that really sparked them. They didn't get that first down, which it wasn't really a trick play. The punter just kind of saw it. I forget who it was. I think it was number 3. I forget who that is.
Kimber.
I think it was Kimber. Yeah.
Yeah, he missed the block punt, and then no one was over there for 15, 20 yards. It was an easy play to make. But it seems like that's how people are really scoring on us, early in games. like USC, those were great plays, but they were trick plays. Like when we were playing pretty well against them. So, I mean, I thought we played pretty good. Our defense was good. Wisconsin, like you said, isn't great. I mean, it was still like our trap game, everybody was saying. Like, everybody thought it, even Penn State fans, because we know what's happened the past years. Always seem to choke in games right before Ohio State. So, and after a bye week, even though we talked about that narrative being a little iffy, but I mean, I thought it was a good week, and Bo came in. I hope Drew's good to go. I don't really know what the word is on that. Like Franklin gave the right answer, make them prepare for both quarterbacks so they don't have any leverage. But I mean, if Bo's in, like I saw Joel Klatt talking about it, our offense does change in a good way, but also a bad way. Like we're getting to this, but like Oregon had like 8 explosive 20-plus yard throws against Ohio State, which would be a lot better fitted with Drew at quarterback. But also when we played Wisconsin, our running game opened wide up and we averaged about 7 yards a carry with Bowen. So it's like a give and take. I don't know what's going to happen, but I thought Bo played great and showed that he can maybe at least keep us in the game long enough this week per se he does play. And maybe Jalen Reed or someone on the defense or special teams makes a play. But we'll see. I thought it was a good game and just beat the trap game once again, undefeated into what we needed to be undefeated into. So can't be mad.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you keep winning is all you can pretty much do at this point. With the 12-team playoff, you just rack up as many wins as possible. So even – and then I talked about this last week. Even if you lose – like winning this Wisconsin game was so big because now it at least gives you the breathing room to lose to Ohio State. Obviously, you don't want to, but it gives you the flexibility to. And they come into this game not playing scared and not playing to lose. And we'll get into this, but I think it just opens up the door for more trick plays, more aggressive play calls, going for it on some more fourth downs, dialing up some more blitzes on defense. Because for some reason early in games, and I noticed against the Wisconsin game, Tom Allen was very content to back off, and that first 3rd and 15 they picked up drove me crazy. But I maybe he gets a little more aggressive, trying to get after Will Howard with Ohio State's banged up offensive line. So I definitely some things that winning the Wisconsin game now opens up in the Ohio State game. So yeah, on that front, yes, obviously winning the Wisconsin game was huge.
I forgot that first drive. I was just going back, and yeah, I forgot they had him at 3rd and 15 from the Wisconsin 20 and gave up a 20-yard, and then the punt fiasco was 4th and 9 at the Wisconsin 41, and then they ended up with a field goal. So yeah, that could have gone very differently from the start. So
yeah, field position could have been way different there. But I do kind of want.
Go ahead, please.
No, because I was going to turn the page, so keep going.
I was going to talk about some of the other injuries. I mean, we know about we know about Drew, but getting denied Dennis Sutton back this week could be very good, but at the same time, the backups played really well at defensive line, kind of across the board. Alonzo Ford, Amin Vanover, and Amin Vanover was everywhere. It seemed like he got a lot of press, and Ford as well. So you want him back for freshness, and because he's probably a top 10 edge rusher in the country, but we're not really in bad shape. Donka coming back is important too, but somebody said that, I think it was on the 24/7 podcast, they said he played even after he went out a little bit. So that's a positive, but having the offensive line depth, very important here too.
Yeah. I was listening to T. Frank today, and he pretty much said that Donko, even when he was in there, was clearly dealing with something and it was causing problems anyway. So, if he's not 100%, I don't think it's in their best interest to even put him out there. Like I feel totally different with Aller and DDS, because I just think, those are 5-star guys, veteran guys that if they're not 100%, I still trust them to go out there. But we're talking about like a redshirt freshman in his 6th, 7th start, of his career. I just think maybe you look at things a little differently there with those two. But kind of then leading into the Aller thing and what Nelly was talking about, what Klatt said. The thing is, I don't know how Prabila would be in a shootout or if you have to come from behind. Now, because, when he first came in, they were behind and it wasn't exactly great looking on offense until Reed got the pick six and gave Penn State the lead. And then Wisconsin was kind of on their toes from there on out.
Yeah.
If they do this slow start thing that they've been doing, we saw how it looked against a very athletic and good offense in USC, where it became 20-6, and it took, a hell of a performance from Aller to get them, back into that game to eventually get to overtime and win it. I don't know if Pribula has that in his bag, so to say. I don't think he has the passing attack necessary to bring the team back from that kind of score. So that's where I lean Aller to start. And then, you know what, if Aller's hurting and you're up by a couple scores in the fourth quarter, maybe you go to Pribula and try to run this read option and melt the clock. But I know Pribula gives more looks, but in terms of if we have to get into a shootout with Ohio State, I definitely prefer Aller.
I mean, like you said, Aller is the 5-star, top 5 quarterback this year. Incredible. And we don't know how hurt he is, right? But I almost go the other way, frankly, with it, in that you're starting this game on equal footing, 0-0. Let him go out first and run the offense that he is accustomed to, assuming he, Bo, is at 100%, right? And let us see how he manages that. And can he keep it tied at, through a quarter, through a half? Can he keep us up and move the ball effectively? Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of explosive plays. And then if you get down from there, because you already gave it your best shot with him, if you get down a couple of scores, then you bring in Drew, because then you're like all hands on deck kind of thing. Whereas if you do it the other way, and let's say Aller's more hurt than he's leading on or something, and then you get down, then you're doubly screwed, because you bring Bo in, then there's no chance,
Yeah.
So I could see it going both ways, but I don't know. On a percentage basis, if Drew Aller is 80% or above, he ought to be the starter. If he's below that, then you want to go with the guy that's healthier and brings that other layer of mobility and just shaking up or putting the defense more on guard, I think. But I don't know anything, so.
I mean, I think I would start Drew. I mean, of course, if he's over 60, 70%. But if you anything less, you're just kind of putting the team in a worse disadvantage. You're not helping anybody. We've seen that before with quarterbacks playing that shouldn't be playing. So, I mean, the thing is when you're thinking about it as a Penn State coach perspective, we saw Oregon just chuck the ball the whole game. As much as they wanted, anywhere they wanted, they were just driving on Ohio State. And Drew gives us the best opportunity to do that. Now, do we have the wide receivers Oregon has? Not even close. So that's also the thing. That's their most vulnerable area. But we might not have the wide receivers to actually make them vulnerable there. So then it's maybe start Bo. Maybe see if our O-line's been pretty good this year. Maybe see if they can get some holes open. Do the read option, see what happens. But, I mean, I personally think you got to start Drew. I mean, we're talking about Ohio State. You just got to play one quarterback. This isn't we're going to just try it out. Once you get down, it's not going to be very easy to come back.
Yeah.
So it's if Drew isn't 100% or he doesn't feel if it's true what he said, I didn't want to play in Wisconsin, even though we were down, if he should be able to make that decision again, even though it's one of the biggest games he'll probably ever play at Penn State and could be the last season here. He's got to put the team in the right position. And if he's not ready to go, I mean, Bo's our best chance then. I still think, we saw Will Levis come in. I mean, the running quarterback does work, but at a time you got to throw the ball, and we also saw what happened when he had to throw the ball. So I think Bo's better than Will Levis in that perspective, so I think we would have a chance with Bo in, but I do personally want to see Drew out there if he's ready to go.
And I think he wants to go out there, obviously, being from Ohio and just really disappointed with the way the offense performed out at the shoe last year. So I think he's going to do what he can to play. And I think kind of another element to this is Nick Singleton's availability. Now we know he's going to play, but he's clearly going through something. But if he's closer to 100% this week and is a little more explosive in the run game, that does take a little off of Drew's shoulders. And then you might be able to go with him off the bat because you're not as worried about your run game stalling, because if Singleton's 100%, you put Bo out there and now Ohio State has to account for Bo running too. And that could open up some more lanes for Singleton, even if he's not doing it himself because he's not 100%. But if he's closer to 100%, that helps Drew too, because it takes some off of his workload and teams have to account for Singleton running, and it kind of makes up for Aller's lack of mobility in a sense, just because Ohio State's defense has to account for a more explosive Singleton.
Correct. Well, yeah. I mean, look, Nick Singleton is worth like 5 points, I think is what we learned this past week, whether he plays or not. So him going from 80 to 100%, if it's 100 to 0 is 5 points, that's at least a point or two going from 80 to 100%. Now, he had 2 weeks to get better, and he still didn't look like himself this week. So, I don't know what they do differently from a rehab standpoint or rest or whatever to keep that healing, whatever the injury is. But yeah, him being better makes Drew's life easier, and it would make Bo's life easier, no matter who the starting quarterback is. What I will say though too is that, and maybe this is like the angle of the cameras at Wisconsin, it's always a little weird to watch a game there. Katron Allen looked like super explosive and fast this
did look fast,
in a way that I've never seen him. Right, like on the touchdown run and other areas, he had a burst that he hadn't had. So I think obviously want to get Singleton healthy, but as long as he's there and he can take some of the load, that's acceptable. Especially now because Quentin Martin, who hasn't done a lot this year, but was listed as out this week. So it's down to these two guys, and you have to keep them upright and healthy as best you can, even with some limitations.
Yeah, I mean, this week we're going to need the run game. And, I mean, the thing is with Katron, he did look really good, but he can't take majority loads of the running game. I forget what game it was when Singleton was out, but he had 22 carries, and his
UCLA, right?
Average per carry wasn't that, he wasn't anything crazy that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he doesn't have the stamina. I don't know what it is, but I don't think he can take that. So Singleton definitely needs to hopefully be better. But I mean, I think we should be fine. I hope, dude. Katron has been good against Ohio State in past years. Hopefully can keep that alive. I mean, I'd like to see an explosive play, which I don't think Katron can outrun Caleb Downs or anybody in that secondary. So that's the only downside of Katron. But yeah, I mean, dude, it really all comes down to who's that quarterback. Because then it's totally different, because you got Bo can make probably more explosive plays than Katron. He's faster than him, I think, personally, just from watching. I don't know if he actually is, but he shows more explosive, more elusiveness. So we'll see.
He definitely gets to top speed quicker, right?
Yeah.
Whether
Nelly, to your point about Allen not looking as good when he's kind of the featured back in a game, I think part of that is a lot of times when we've seen Allen at his best, it's been late in games when Nick Singleton has already tired out these defenses and he's just running these guys over and being physical. He doesn't get to do that from the get-go in the first quarter when the defense is fresh. So his strengths definitely become not weaknesses, but weaker when Singleton isn't there to complement him. So, your point is totally valid that they do kind of need each other in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was UCLA. He had 21 carries for 76 yards without Singleton. And then this week he had 11 for 86. Right. So, and maybe it's not so much that he, like Alec, he just said, I mean, I think he's going against a beaten down and worn down defense later in the game. And it shows up as being more explosive when really it's probably not that much different. So that's a good point.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's switch to their side of the ball, because Ohio State's fans seem to be very concerned about their offensive line. So the starting left tackle goes down in the Oregon game. And I don't know if you saw the running back splits since he got hurt. but they're not good. Like Judkins has not had, I don't think, over 30 yards in the last 2 games. And Henderson was at 20 something against Nebraska. He was at 80, 83, 87, somewhere around there against Oregon, but 53 of that came on 1 carry. So ever since the starting left tackle went down against Oregon, they've struggled to run the ball. And then his backup got injured against Nebraska, and it sounds like they're going to move a guard out to tackle and bring in a new guard or something. So the left side of their line is in some disarray, and that's why I do think that Denai Dennis Sutton's availability matters, because he usually is on that left side from what I understand. And they're going to have to bring resources over to that left side to help whoever is playing tackle and guard over there. And that means that those resources are not going to Abdul Carter. And he's going to have a lot more one-on-ones with the right tackle or vice versa, whatever side he ends up on, because of that. So I think it is critical that DDS plays from that standpoint. But also just that, Penn State defensive linemen not named Abdul Carter have big games, because they have to take attention away from him and onto that left side.
Yep. I will not contend to know anything about the Ohio State offensive line and what their depth chart was going into this game or going into the year. But right now, and our lads, they list Zen Mikulski and then Deontay Armstrong, who's a true freshman, as the 2 left tackles that are available, and then nothing else.
Yeah, I think the guard is moving. I saw something.
I saw something that said one of them might move out, but Day said if Mikulski is healthy, he's going to play, and then the replies to that were like, "Oh my God, we're screwed." So I don't know, but I agree with you. Having DDS healthy does a lot of things, right? Because something else Chip Kelly said today is that they don't want to run Will Howard that much because they're afraid. This is more not a direct quote, but it's paraphrased that if he gets hurt, they don't like what they have a backup quarterback. So, what do you do? I guess you scheme quick passes and you try to run the ball to protect Will Howard in all cases here. They're not going to be able to run the ball against us. They can't run the ball against Nebraska. So then you rely on the quick pass game to do anything effectively. Otherwise, you risk, us getting a lot of pressure on Will Howard and potentially hurting him because he's not going to scramble or there's not going to be any design runs for him. So This, I don't know, man. This is shaping up to be very positive for Penn State, God willing.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you guys both said about D-line. And about the scheme, though, from what we've seen, I don't know if it's how we're playing defense, too, because I honestly haven't been looking that much. But, especially against, Illinois and, even USC sometimes, they will run those quick passes, and they'll get 12, 15 yards easily on our corners. Now, I don't know if that's because the coverage we're playing or not. I could be just completely wrong, and we might play different against Ohio State and play more press coverage, man-to-man up. But from what I saw against USC and Illinois, those quick passes killed us with their wide receivers. And if you got Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka out there and Carnell Tate, they make one person miss, they're going to the end zone. So it's also on that side that I don't know. I'm a little scared, but from just recent games and watching what other teams were doing on us with less of what Ohio State has. But I do agree. Even if DDS doesn't play, I like Vanover. I like Smith-Vilbert. Even though Carter might get double teamed on the other side, and maybe they try the one-on-ones, those defensive ends have showed us they can make plays. And if they're down to the freaking out third person, I mean, I would hope our second deep can beat their third guy deep, if not fourth guy deep. Even though he's at Ohio State, we're still Penn State. It's not like we're much less than them, if at all. So I think we should be fine there, even if DDS doesn't play. I don't really know what happened. It looked like a cramp or his hamstring. I don't know if have you guys ever seen any? I haven't looked. I don't think
it looked like in the game, it looked like a groin pull. I mean, he was.
Yeah.
They showed the replay, and he was moving quickly and then kind of stopped and limped around a little bit. He didn't get hurt or he didn't get hit or anything, and then he started landing on the ground and was feeling around with his groin and stuff. So I think that's a pretty common injury. I don't know what it takes to get better, but
Yeah.
they also reported that Kale went and gave Kale Sanderson gave Franklin a lot of advice on how to heal people up. So that's good. Everyone's working together.
I mean, yeah, we need any help we can get to beat Ohio State, apparently. So I'll take what a national champion coach will, however many times he's won. I don't even know the number, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm personally scared about our secondary. So I know like AJ Harris has played good, and Kimber's been. I haven't heard Kimber's name, which means he's playing good enough. If I don't hear your name in the secondary, honestly, that means that you're doing your job, and I'm happy. So I think they've been good so far. Our only test has been USC, and their wide receivers did make plays. I think on wide receivers, at least, they had the best unit to cover, and they're still not close to Ohio State. I mean, their best wide receivers, freshmen, while Mbuka also has killed us before. So it's pretty scary. And like you said, their run game has been working, but those two running backs can get it going whenever they want. We've seen Henderson be stopped most of the game, then take a 40-yard touchdown, which will kill everything. So we need to, even if we stop them running, we can't have explosive plays. So we'll see. But
yeah, I think, you mentioned kind of the supply of athletes they have at running back and receiver, and they will use that to their advantage to cancel out this offensive line problem, because they will just run a bunch of bubble screens. They'll run some reverses with these guys. They'll run just straight screens with the running backs. Obviously, quick slants, things like that. Maybe a couple double passes, a flea flicker. They'll do things to make sure this offensive line problem isn't a problem, and just rely on their athletes on the outside to make plays. And that's what I kind of worry about with the defense, because in the limited instances we've had that issue, the really good tight end that Bowling Green had, who still leads the country in receiving yards for tight ends, by the way, he's close to 1,000 yards already. And, kind of the athletes USC had with the reverses and the trick plays that didn't work, but the dude was still athletic enough to make it into a big play. That worries me, because in those small sample size of going up against elite talents at the skill position, we've kind of failed.
Yeah. I mean, hold on, I gotta look up some things. I agree with everything. I failed. Like USC had a couple big plays, right? The Bowling Green was kind of a disaster. I understand. I get that one. But like, what was USC's passing?
He was over 2 something, wasn't he? He had to be.
I'm gonna look. I'm sure it was over 2, but they ran like 60, 75 plays or something too.
Yeah, there were a lot of plays.
20 for 34 for 220. I mean, that's not crazy. McKenna Lemon had 73. Woody Marks had 42 for 44 as a running back. Who's their punt returner dude that everybody was worried about?
Branch.
2 for 6. Right.
He
So
was really bad this year. He was so good last year.
So I don't know. I don't think the secondary has done that poorly. I mean, we do get beat on screen or on slants often, especially when we're playing zone, I feel like. And then I have PTSD from Ohio State 2018, the 4th and 5 game, when Dwayne Haskins just like threw screens all day, and whatever first round draft pick receivers they had back then would take him to the house. So we need to avoid that. But that was also a much, much different defense that didn't have the depth that these guys do now. So I like AJ Harris. Kimber is doing pretty well. Cam Miller has been better than he was in the Peach Bowl last year. But Ohio State is going to line up a lot of guys, and I don't know who's covering the slot. Right? Is that Cam Miller now, or is that Kimber? Is that Uka, I think, right? Generally,
I think, because I think they have Tracy and Miller
That's just both super scary to go against Ohio State. We saw what happened versus Ole Miss.
This is going to be the first time I think you start to miss KJ Winston.
Yeah.
It's going to be noticeable. It was noticeable at times against USC. I fear it's going to be very noticeable this week, just with what they have at receiver.
Yeah, I can see that. And like Jalen Reed is amazing, but he is not a cover guy, right? Like we want him to, he's kind of hybrid linebacker almost.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not having that depth. You know who'd be cool to have right now is Kalen King, or Daquan Hardy also could have came back, right?
Daquan Hardy would be very nice to have back.
Who's the Johnny Dixon could have come back. My God.
No, I don't think Hardy could have. He was out eligible.
Okay, so Dixon and King then could have. But man,
because Hardy was the one I think they would have loved to have come back.
Yeah.
But, oh well.
So here we go. But
yeah.
But look, I think I don't know. Like if you're gonna make Will Howard beat you in the air, and make them very one-dimensional. I think that's probably you take that bet, despite how good their receivers are, right? Because then you rely more a little bit on the pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
If turns out they can establish the run, then Carter and whoever's around him can kind of pin their ears back. You got Zane Durant, who's easily my favorite player on the defense. Those guys are kind of going after it, and you at least pressure Howard into bad throws. So it's probably best case scenario, honestly, if that's what it works out to be.
Yeah, this is gonna be interesting for a lot of reasons. I feel like, but I'm curious to see how Andy Kotelnicki goes about this game. Obviously, the quarterback thing, outside of that, because in pretty much every game, and I'm not going to count Kent State because that is the worst team in college football, but in every other game, they've put up enough points to win, and they've dominated the box score. I'd say outside of the USC game, but other than that, they've dominated the box score, mostly dominated time of possession, won the game, won comfortably. Like the Illinois game, to an extent, the West Virginia game, this past game, the UCLA game. It's not a blowout on the scoreboard, but you never totally felt like Penn State was going to lose after a little bit. Now, obviously, for a second when Aller got hurt, you get those fears. But then the second Prebula settles in, you're like, okay, it feels good again.
Mm.
It has to change this week. I think you have to be able to maximize how many points you could put up on the board. Yeah. And I know some of that isn't Kotelnicki's fault, like Julian Fleming dropping a wide open pass, or in the USC game, that offensive pass interference, and stuff like that. Like that's out of his control, obviously. But you can't just dominate the box score and win this game. You have to actually have the points behind it. And I think that is kind of what I'm looking for with this offense, if they could take the next step and actually put up points when it matters.
Very good. So they are against 1A team, so excluding anybody who's played at FCS. Penn State is 11th in the country in yards per game at 463, right? And then their scoring offense is 27th in the country. So
yeah.
That's exactly it, right? And they are dominating more than the score indicates, I think, in pretty much every game. And yeah, the red zone offense, at least in the USC game, really reared its ugly head. And I'm trying to remember back before that. I don't know how many times we've settled for field goals.
Bowling Green game, it wasn't great. Yeah. Aller threw that weird interception.
Yeah. Right. But then, so that was one positive from this week that I really enjoyed, was watching the first touchdown drive go as a touchdown drive in the red zone. And then Prebula's first drive, where he also navigated the red zone pretty well with the touchdown to Khalil Dinkins. So maybe things are getting a little bit better there now. Obviously, Wisconsin is not as good as probably even USC is defensively, but they made the most of their opportunities this week. So that's a positive.
Yeah, I mean, every time we're in the red zone, we got to put up points next week, even if it is field goals, which you don't want. But we've also seen before we tend to miss field goals a lot. So honestly, any points will do early. I would like to see us for once on our first drive get something. I don't care if it's a field goal or a touchdown. Just show that you're capable of moving the ball early. Because, yeah, like we just talked about, we're going to need points. We're going to need at least 27, probably, I would assume, if not more, because you know how quick they can put up points. We saw it multiple years ago when they were here. We were up in the fourth, and next thing you know, we're down 2 scores, and just like that. So, I mean, we're going to need to put up points, and we're going to need to score as many times as we can get in the red zone. So, like you said, USC, we didn't do great. Luckily, their defense was kind of not doing great in the second half, gave up a lot of plays, and Warren's literally carried us. But we'll see. And that's another thing. I need to see someone step. I still haven't seen a wide receiver really fully step up. Like Fleming had those 2 great catches against USC, and then he dropped that wide open pass. Like you can't drop a pass like that. Like he had 2 great catches, but like that's you're wide open. That's a 25, 30-yard pass. That changes the game by dropping it, even though we wanted Wisconsin, whatever. I mean, he's also been working hard, so we don't bash him too much. Like we've seen, like they've all been working hard. Liam Clifford's been doing good, but like this is the game. Whoever's that second wide receiver needs to step up. Because if I'm Ohio State, you stop the run game and you double team Warren, make them go 1-on-1 to your wide receivers. I mean, we saw Harrison Wallace against West Virginia, but other than that, he's been kind of a no-show. Liam Clifford's been here and there. Julian Fleming finally got his catch in like the 3rd game or second ever. I don't even know if he has a touchdown yet this year.
He does not.
He had 2 great catches against USC. I mean, but like still, like they've been there when we needed them, which has been huge. But like now it's like we are going to need you more than 3 plays this game. Like you're going to need to be able to be there the whole game, and I need to see someone. So I mean, we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a lot of hope for this week once again.
So, real quick, Ohio State has the best red zone scoring offense in the country. They have 27 attempts and 25 touchdowns and 2 field goals. So, compare that to Penn State, who has 28 attempts, 22 touchdowns, and 6 field goals. So, USC was bad, but at least it was 2 touchdowns, 4 field goals. So, did not miss any against USC. Scored in every possession, but a 2-to-4 touchdown to field goal ratio is not going to get it done, especially when Ohio State makes absolutely the most out of every one of their red zone possessions.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, you just got to keep. The thing is, Nebraska did a good job of keeping them out of the red zone. They hit a bunch of big pass plays, though. I think they had a 60-yard touchdown, and there might have been a 30 in there too.
Yeah, they had 1 red zone attempt against Nebraska.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. Even if you keep them out of the red zone, they're going to score a little bit. Not as much, but obviously they're very explosive in the passing game. So being in the red zone isn't do or die for them as it is a little bit more for us because we're just not as explosive in the pass game. Outside of
interesting here. Okay, hold on a second. So
go ahead.
Okay, so Nebraska, they had the 2 big pass plays. So they had 1 red zone attempt, scored 21 points. Oregon, 5 red zone attempts, 4 touchdowns, and a field goal. They scored 31 points. So all of their points against Oregon came in the red zone. Iowa, 5 for 5 touchdowns, 35 points. And then Michigan State, 5 attempts, 4 touchdowns, 1 field goal. So 31 out of their 38 points against Michigan State red zone. So like they have been really sustaining drives. And then it's like Marshall, Western Michigan, and Akron, like whatever. I'm going to discount that a little bit. But like in all their Big Ten games, virtually all of their points have came from red zone. So I don't know. You can they have not had a lot of big plays the last few games, I guess is what that would imply, except for the Nebraska one, which is kind of interesting. But
I know watching the Oregon game, they had a couple big plays that got them close where guys got pushed out the 3-yard line a couple times. So yeah, because that was Henderson's last big run. He had a 53-yard run, which set them up, I think, for the go-ahead touchdown at that point. They went behind then, but
and then dude got hurt.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot of takeaways here. I think I'd feel better if I knew Drew Aller was 100%. That to me is just because the thing is, if this gets into a shootout, I don't know if I trust Bo Prabula in a shootout. And I don't know if you saw those 2 passes Eller threw after he got hurt. One was at the
God. Yeah,
they were bad.
I don't remember the. He threw one to Katron. I don't remember that.
Like at his feet. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the downfield one, and that was one of those when his feet aren't set and he's kind of getting a little jumpy and he way off target, right? Like you knew something was wrong with that because he regressed from being extremely accurate to like that's a really shitty pass, like very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a concern for me. Is just can he do it? And is he going to be afraid now? Because he's played pretty fearless this season.
Yep.
Is he going to be afraid now to get hit? And is that bad footwork that we saw last year going to rear its ugly head again?
Yeah, 2 games ago, maybe it was the USC game. The For the Bloggy, like Coach Caduti breakdown was all about his footwork, and it's the first few examples are he's kind of drifting and he's not setting his feet, and like look, it's 10 yards over the receiver's head. And then it goes to look how confident he is and the rhythm that he's in, and it's like spot on. So when he's on, he's amazing, and then when he's not, it's like kind of dicey. So yeah, you can't have him unsure and I won't say scared, right? Like there's always he's injured, there's nerves that are going to go in with that, but I don't think he's like mentally completely a different human. He's just kind of reacting. But yeah, he's got to be on if we want to have a chance.
I mean, yeah, but also I trust Bo. Oddly enough, I do think whoever's that quarterback, we are in this game. Now I don't know if we'll win this game, but I think we're in it no matter what till the fourth quarter. I have us winning, of course, because I don't know. This year just feels different with having 3 tests where everybody's picking against you, and you go out there and show them every time. We're down 20-6 at USC. Never would have thought we'd come back with Franklin usually. And this year, our offense wins us that game, which I still think I'll never say. It's always been our defense in past years winning us games, and offense is keeping you in it. And then defense gets a turnover, gets you your field position to win. So, I mean, this year does feel different. I don't know. I feel like everybody says that every year once we get to this game. But, I mean, we're 7-0. We had 3 tests, I think. USC, even though everybody's going to discount the USC game, but they could easily be 7-1. I could say 7-1 easily. They should have beat us, if we're being honest, but we found a way to win. Good teams find a way to win. So, I mean, got to do what we got to do. But I think we do come out on top. Like I said, game-winning field goal, which would be so sick to be at. And also our field goal kicker always sucked. So it'd be nice to see us win with a field goal. But we'll see. I think it all comes down to making Will Howard uncomfortable in the pocket and honestly, I want to see our corners go against those wide receivers. I trust AJ. AJ Harris played at Georgia. I mean, he's seen these types of athletes. Not using the SEC he's played Bama so many times. Like, come on. Bama and Ohio State are pretty equal, if not better. So I have us winning 27-24. That's my prediction of the game.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree about AJ Harris. I think he's got to be big time this week. The only bad play he had last week against Wisconsin was that one long pass that they had, and he was the cover guy, but he was not ready. Right? It was some weird thing where they snapped it pretty quick, and he just wasn't ready. So I'm not, whatever, shit happens. That's a touchdown against Ohio State, but whatever. Let's see what else. Yeah, make Will Howard uncomfortable. That's correct.
Thank you.
God, just like I'm just going through in my mind because you said a lot of things about USC. I was going to make comments about that too, but I'll leave that alone. I don't know, man. The quarterback has to step up. Like Nelly, you said before about the receivers, you can't have drops. This is the game where you cannot have unforced errors a drop like Fleming had.
We can't have the fumble sixes or the BS pick six to D lineman for 80. We can't have any of those stupid plays that we always seem to have.
However you pronounce that.
Yeah.
Right. No, but penalties are big. Abdul Carter has not had an offsides penalty in several weeks, so that's
All right,
good.
knock on wood.
I think he's learning. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think minimizing penalties, maximizing opportunities on 3rd and long, because if they can't run the ball, right, and we can get pressure, they're going to get into 3rd and 12, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 15 kind of situations. You got to get off the field, right? You cannot give those things up because that's got to be super deflating for your team. And then it puts you on the field for longer, and you don't want that. I think every year I pick Penn State to win this game for the last 8 years, and I've always been disappointed. I will say, not since the last time Donald Trump was going to beat a woman in the presidential election have they beaten them, and that's about to happen a few days after the game. So all the omens are lining up that Penn State's going to win. But I'm going to say Ohio State 21, Penn State 17.
Yeah, I'm done picking Penn State to beat Ohio State until I actually see it happen. I think they have a good chance this year. If I knew Aller was 100% healthy, I'd feel really good. Because of that, I'm like 24-20 Ohio State right now. I think this game's winnable, but I need to kind of be proven otherwise. Like, I need to see it at this point. It's just been too long. They have a big opportunity. Big noon, game day. There's going to be a lot of eyes on it. Don't know if Trump's coming or not.
I thought he was.
But,
He's going up at like 1 o'clock or something. I thought it was.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard some mixed things about that. So, that brings even more eyes. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on this.
Are you guys going?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Good. Congratulations.
Nice.
I don't know. Like, this is the year where they pull together improbable wins, right? Against USC, a game that they lose every other year. I mean, Purdue aside. Last week, starting quarterback goes down. The last time that happens, the season melted down over the next several hours. So this team definitely has character. They have guts. They have, I don't know, moxie or whatever bullshit you want to say. And Ohio State certainly does not have that. Like, if you go on the Ohio State message boards and you read the press conference notes, this team is in disarray, and there's a lot of questions about leadership and a lot of questions about toughness, and Penn State doesn't have any of that. And I think, if we get up 10 or 14, we're not losing this game like we did in years past, because there is no JT Barrett, Dwayne Haskins, and Urban Meyer to bring them back. I don't think they come back from something like that now. So.
Yep, I'm just hoping for a close game no matter what. Since I'm going there, it would suck to go to a blowout. I mean, it's a huge game. This is probably, I don't even know what the last biggest game was, but at home, this is the biggest game I've probably ever been to. This is for not everything, because they made playoffs 12 teams, of course, but getting that win against Ohio State, with everyone saying you can't beat them.
Yep.
Winning with millions of people watching, competing for a Big Ten title, maybe winning, and possibly getting a home playoff game or getting a bye because you win the Big Ten, because you get that opportunity. Everything's open for us, which usually seems to be the case, but more so because we also don't have to play Michigan or anybody else, really.
Wish we did.
I know. I wish it was flipped this year.
Yeah, I know. I wanted the
Blow
revenge.
Michigan out of the water.
Yeah. I mean, other than this, our season looks pretty solid to end. I know we got to play Minnesota and such.
That's the only game.
Yeah. But, this is really our season, and I feel like everybody knows that, of course. And Franklin knows what's on the line. Hopefully can finally pull it away. I'm betting on him too, which you should
Literally or figuratively?
No, I can't. I haven't bet on us since 2018.
All right, I thought so. I'm just making sure. Okay.
No, I can't bet. It's been working well. I can't do it. Also, don't need to lose more money while I'm at the game. I don't need to go down the drain with alcohol spending, and then also getting pissed off that we just lost by 4 and not 3.5.
Yeah.
So
if you do win this game, if they win this game, they're virtually guaranteed to go in the playoffs, though, because they're not going to lose more than one game of the remaining 4.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is
and Ohio State goes on the bubble too.
Right, exactly. And then they play Indiana next week, and then they lose to that. The whole world is different. And winning this game, it feels like it does a lot for the program to push Penn State like up in the hierarchy a little bit and actually push Ohio State down, because there gets to be a lot of questions around Ryan Day and his future. Yeah. And, you can do a lot to kind of move Penn State up to the upper two of the conference along with Oregon, because Michigan's got a lot of problems too, right? Mm-hmm. So this can be a real kind of program defining thing. And now it doesn't bring more NIL money necessarily, but it also doesn't hurt. So,
yeah. I will say, Nelly, every time Ohio State has come to Penn State under James Franklin, it's been very entertaining games. 2014 was double OT. 2016, obviously, Penn State won. 2018 was 4th and 5. 2020 was COVID, so it's hard to count that. That was the game that Jahan Dotson went crazy in. And we know 22 was quite the seesaw for the majority of the game until like the last 6 minutes. So it's always been an entertaining game. And I don't see that changing this week. I think
that's one thing I don't bet anything, but I would bet a lot of money that we don't get blown out. Right?
Yeah.
I think this team is built that they really can't get blown out. They do enough offensively to control time of possession. The defense doesn't give up a lot of explosive plays outside of that USC game, pretty much. A lot of times when they got burned, it's on those methodical 3-yard runs and then a slant and then, something in the flat. So it's hard to blow Penn State out, I think, which works in their advantage too when you play a super explosive team like Ohio State. But I do expect it to be entertaining at least.
Well, we'll know in a few days.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll be back next week, hopefully talking about a win, but
hopefully not.
That remains to be seen. Nelly wants a win. Nelly wants to be.
We all want it.
He wants to be on the goalpost when the game.
Yes, I want to be the one on the goalpost. I don't even know where we would take it, but
where would we take it? Put it on your car and drive it home or whatever.
I'm trying to think.
No, literally, where would we take them? There's nowhere to go.
I think the biggest pond in State College is in the freaking golf course.
I ain't walking that far.
That's a long way to walk.
Yeah, I will be on the goalpost because I ain't walking that.
I seriously think that's the biggest water in State College.
Just go take it to like the RV lot or whatever and hang out.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of any rivers or anything that runs.
I'm trying to think of a big area where you could just place it. I don't even know where you could do
out on the farm field to let the cows.
The football field is a good place to leave it.
Yeah. All right. Nelly, you spend the rest of the week thinking about that, and
I'll figure out the plan.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, we'll see you next week.
Have a great day.